I got the call and the doctor said, "Do you have a moment to talk?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." And then basically felt like the whole world caved in on me. I went into complete shock. I couldn't really even say anything. You know, it was a very hard thing. I was alone in the car and everything flashed through my eyes. Everything that I hadn't gotten to do yet in my life at 32 years old, like fall in love or have a family. It also came through my mind as to whether I would have to do chemo. And being a very health conscious person, already, really tuned into holistic, natural lifestyle, that was not something that I would ever want to have to face. I chose to have the double mastectomy, and really based on a couple of factors, and one being that I was told I could do a lumpectomy with radiation or a mastectomy, and chemo was still on the table, but they hadn't made a final decision about that. In order to actually avoid radiation, I chose to do a mastectomy. It turned out that a panel of 12 doctors looked over my case, and they actually did not recommend chemo. So that was a huge relief for me, because if I were faced with making that decision, that would just go against my core beliefs. Make any sense to me to treat cancer in your body with something that is so toxic and can cause cancer, along with so many other horrible side effects. There was a genetic test done called the Oncotype test, and this is a test that is based off taking a drug called tamoxifen, which tamoxifen is actually a carcinogenic in itself, and they prescribe it blanketly to all women who have hormone-driven cancers. And at the time, I had a team of doctors, but I also brought on a naturopath who specialized in people going through cancer. So I did some genetic testing with her, and I learned a lot about this drug tamoxifen, and understanding that there are a couple of genes within our bodies that are needed to actually metabolize that drug. And if those genes are inhibited, that this drug can actually cause an increase in recurrence. And I've read these studies. So we got my panel done, and we saw that those genes were not working well in my body. Based on that test, my oncologist did say that she would like me to consider doing chemo. And of course, I chose not to do that. It was, as I said, against my core beliefs, and it's the trouble is you get this conflicting information. Well, a panel of 12 doctors said no, but then this test, which I also believe is skewed because it's based on taking tamoxifen, and the pharmaceutical companies are then, funding this test. It's not a blind study that's done, by a third party. It's that money is influencing how this test comes out. And they originally thought that test would come back at a very low number. Well, it came back at about 16% of chance of reoccurrence if I take tamoxifen for 5 years. Without it, it increases 4%, about 4 or 5% chance that I'll get a reoccurrence. My oncologist presented that to me as very bad news. And it really kind of broke me down, and puts you into that fear state of feeling like, you should do something drastic like chemo. Of course, I chose not to, and recognizing that actually a 20% chance of reoccurrence is not that high. It's, if you look at the overall picture within the statistics, it's not a significant, percentage to worry about. But it's like, we could focus on the 20%, or how about we focus on the 80%? I was dealing with a lot of the kind of emotional storm that comes after all the doctor's appointments, after you've gone through everything. I was dealing with PTSD, anxiety. I was living in complete fear of reoccurrence. And when I watched The Truth About Cancer, it just gave me hope. It allowed me to relax and trust that, number one, that I made the right decisions in not doing chemo. And number two, in knowing that even if it came back, which I certainly don't believe that it will, but a calm in the sense of, I know what I would do and I know where I would go. And there are hundreds of, viable options out there that are outside of destroying your immune system and breaking down your body. And so for me, it allowed me to let go of a lot of that fear. That was, I was basically trapped in my own body of my own cloud of fear around getting it again. And, it was really comforting in reaffirming, like I said, that I made the right decisions. My belief system, I think, is what carried me through this whole situation with a positive mindset. I definitely went through lows and a lot of fear, but I had an underlying belief that everything would be okay. And a lot of that is my faith and my spirituality, believing that the universe will take care of me, and that there is a bigger thing at play here, that I'm going through this whole experience for a reason. And having that connection to self. On a day-to-day basis, I really pay attention to my diet, making sure to eat lots of vegetables, do some juicing, and that's always been really important to me. So it's something I've kind of carried through this journey, of course. And I also really pay attention to like what I put on my body as far as like personal care products, and makeup, anything I put on my body, because one thing we also learned with my genetic testing was that there's a couple of genes in your body that detox yourself from harmful estrogen buildup. And in my body, those are inhibited. Those don't work well. So that's something that I pay attention to all the time, whether I'm washing my hands or doing my makeup. Another really important part of staying healthy for me is tuning into my own inner self-talk and kind of detoxifying myself from negative thoughts. I think that unfortunately we all can struggle with not being our own friend, in a sense. I've done a lot of work around self-compassion, and it is something that's been very healing. I also do yoga and meditation, and I find that it's really important to just take time and space to feel grounded. We can all get caught up in the rat race of going to work and coming home and then doing it again the next day. And it's really important to take time out, which I do for myself, to stay grounded. I take quite a few supplements. I take DIM, which is actually a part of cruciferous vegetables, and it is a natural way of detoxing your body from harmful estrogens. That's similar to what they say that tamoxifen does, but minus all of the awful side effects, So I take that consistently. Another good one is indole 3-carbinol. That one also helps with detoxification pathways. I take a fish oil. I take a rhodiola to help with kind of just hormone balance. And then I take some digestive enzymes because gut health is very important. I take magnesium at night. It's a calming thing to go to sleep with. And then melatonin. Melatonin is also helpful with estrogen detoxification. And then, of course, you get the added benefit of helping you sleep. I've been cancer-free for 3 years. You can focus on this awful thing happened to me, that I got breast cancer at 32, but I've really looked at it as an experience that has allowed me not only to really feel and know how loved I am by everyone around me, but also to, really learn to love and wholly accept myself. And it has been some of the most heartbreaking and beautiful moments in my life.